Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anthropology 120, Magic, Witchcraft, and Religion in the Americas. This is the summer term. The course begins today, June 15th, and goes on until July 23rd. Now, to begin, one of the first things that we need to do is have a look at the syllabus. I've touched on this in the getting started part of the course, but I want to reiterate some important things. So why don't you pause the video for just a moment and bring that syllabus up. Okay, hopefully you're back with it. At the very top of the document, some really important stuff is how to get a hold of me. You'll see either by email or text or voice. The email there is not the only one. You can utilize that email to get a hold of me, or through Canvas. You can utilize that message service. They're equally as good. No preference on either of those. I think the best way to get a hold of me is by voice. Personally, because I think when you're looking at a problem or have something in front of you that you're reading or a video, your questions about that are right there. It's like being in a classroom. You need to know. So you pick up the phone and give me a call, and I can work with you on that. Text is good, not so much for asking questions, but for setting up phone conversations. Like, hey, Mercer, you hit me up with a text. Hey, Mercer, do you have time between this and this? And I'll arrange that period of time in that block so that you can call me and we can talk about stuff, right? So you can actually, make, meetings with me to talk over voice. Additionally, text can be used for questions. Remember, it just takes a little bit more time to utilize those sort of connective sort of things, especially with someone my age. I'm not going to be able to text as rapidly as you will. All right. My hours, Monday through Friday on all voice or emails, 9 to 5. In the evening, if I'm around, if I'm not having things to do with the kids and the yard I got to take care of, soccer practice, all this other stuff going on, I will, of course, get back to you on the weekends. I just can't guarantee it. And that's the same thing, of course, the evenings, I just can't guarantee it, but I don't mind it. You're welcome to even try to call me at 10 o'clock at night. After that, I'm just going to be asleep. My phone's going to be off. So, these courses are short enough to where I'm not going to try to limit your availability to me. Things happen very quickly, and I know that you do need me. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. Next, this is the stuff about the course is explained. You can read about what the course is about. It's magic, witchcraft, and religion in the Americas, but the course segment gives you the detail. The things we want to really look at, and I've sent out a couple of texts, messages over Canvas about this. Are there required books? These are the things you actually do need to get, right? So Anthropology of Religion and Magic and Witchcraft, that's actually available online too. You can get a hard copy if you want, but you're going to need these like really fast as is of today. So I get the online version. And you're also going to need Monsters, Evil Beings, and Mythical Beasts very quickly too. These are going to be used like bam, like in today and tomorrow, we're going to jump right into these things. And you're also going to need some video access over Amazon. We have a series to watch, or this is a 6-part series. It's called The Power of Myth. We're going to be watching 4 episodes of this. I think they're $2.99 or $1.99 per episode. So about $10 worth of viewing charges for the course. And I've only found them available at Amazon. If you can find them elsewhere cheaper, great. Okay, that's it for the required text. Provided stuff. There's papers I'm going to provide, and majority of stuff is going to be the papers, the small little interesting readings that I have for you, and they're going to be in the assignment link. So when you see the assignments below with the modules, just click on those and you can download all of that. And there'll be instructions on the page on how to do that too. All right. Now, requirements. Let's go look at how you're going to get graded real quickly before we can get into the material for today. There's an orientation, which you should do before this. So if you haven't done the orientation, go back and do it. And there's also a meet and greet where you can post some fun stuff about yourself, which I really enjoy reading. I like when you guys post exciting stuff about what you do and your life and things like that. So you can share and try to commit, become part of a community. That's 10 points, so don't ignore that. Right? The next is going to be discussion response. That's coming up very soon, as sometime this week we're going to be talking about things in your own personal life, what you've seen in magic, witchcraft, and religion, which are the most compelling to you or the most interesting. You're going to be able to share that with me and all the other classmates. We'll be able to comment on each other's sort of experiences. There's 2 critical thinking papers. These are just response papers to probably films that you're going to be watching, or ideas you have. These are very creative assignments for you. Critical thinking papers aren't very long. They're 1 to 2 pages. and they're big points too. That's 30 points of your grade. One will be coming to you in the first week, and one pretty much the last 2 weeks of the class. There'll be nothing in the middle. So to let you know, I want you to go through the syllabus and find those. Right? There are 3 midterm quizzes. They're 40 points each. Generally, they're like 20 questions, 2 points per question, always multiple choice, and generally over the big concepts in what you're reading. The big concepts in meetings. I never get too picky about stuff like that. Names and dates and all that kind of stuff. Forget it. What is the big idea sort of stuff? And there's also one final exam. That is going to be an essay question. And it will be just one question for you to answer, and I'll give it to you a week in advance. All right. There's your grading scale. It's done on points. You get 270 and higher, you get an A. Each one of the quizzes, as well as the final, I will curve those. So the mean I shoot for is 83.4%, 83.5. So if the mean falls below that, I add points to every one to bring it back up to scale. And here's what I usually end up with in this course: 45 to 50% of my students get B's, 24 to 28% get A's. About 15% C's, and a very small fraction of those below. And generally the fraction below are the people that just disappear, so don't disappear, because there's no way in which I can really take roll to be able to drop you. This is not that type of course. These online courses are kind of strange worlds where I don't really get to see your participation as much as I want, and by the time I realize that you just sort of disappeared, it's past the drop date. I can't pull you off the record officially, and you end up with an F. So be very careful if you don't want to be in the class. Make sure you take care of those adds and drops, which I mentioned in the course right below that in the syllabus. All right, let's jump into the schedule real fast. The course is broken down into 3 modules. Or 4 modules in the summer course. Now let's have a look at when the quiz dates are, so you can get those sort of written down so you don't forget about those. The first quiz module that you have, the module for module 1, is June 24th. Okay, so mark that down. Again, it's multiple choice. For module 2, it's July 6th. And for module 3, it's July 15th. Now, the final exam is going to be due by midnight, July 24th. And that will be, one day after the course closes. I give you an extra day, as much time as I can for you to complete that one question. All right. Now we have that done. We're ready to kind of get into what today's subject matter really is about. I'm trying to introduce you to, the study, the anthropological study of magic, witchcraft, and religion, and how anthropologists sort of look at this. Well, one thing is that we look at religious phenomena, like any social phenomenon, as a product of not only our biological selves, but it's a product of our evolved needs, so that humans are evolved to produce religion, mythologies, and all sorts of spirituality, because it's highly functional for us. And it's required as a human being. Thus, when I encounter religion and someone who's religious or has spiritual beliefs, I have the utmost respect for them, because it's what we do, is what we're designed to do. At the same time, it doesn't mean that what we do is reality. It doesn't mean what we do and the beliefs that we have are factual anyway. These are social phenomena that we're looking at, right? And nonetheless, they're still very important phenomenon for being human. They maintain our psychological integrity in actually many ways. In fact, I love it when people say to me that they're completely atheist, they have no belief in God. And I quickly remember a story that I had. One of my great friends that went to high school with a long time ago is now an engineer for Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. He worked down in the valley. And he came to my house about 3 months ago. And my daughter used to be a race car driver. She used to drive stock cars. And she has a really fast car. And she always has. So she decided to drive us to dinner one time. And, of course, she wanted to show off how fast her new car could go. And we almost hit 170 miles an hour on Highway 80. And my friend Richard was in the back seat. And the first thing that came out of his mind, he said, "Oh, God, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, God." And I said, I popped my daughter and I said, "Slow down, pull over." So she pulled over, and I got really mad at her and stuff. And then I looked at Richard and I said, "So what did you say?" And he goes, "That meant nothing. It was just a euphemism." I go, "No, it wasn't. You reached for something." Right? You reached for something at the last minute when you were out of power in this world. You pulled out God from your pocket to help you in that, Mr. Atheist, right? What I'm trying to say is that at most we are agnostic. This is just what it is to be human. And our egos take over because we don't want to be religious. We reel against that form of identity because we've taken what we want to be an atheist identity, despite the real psychology of what's happening in here. You're born for religion. It's the way that it is. And I mean, any religion depends on the cultural context in which you're in because it's highly functional. All right. All right, now for today, what we're going to be thinking about, and the conversation I'm having with you now, are things that we want to complete today, Monday and Tuesday. We're going to take this 2 day space before you go on to the next exercises because there's going to be enough work involved in here for you to do that. So I'm not even going to bring up the next assignment till probably, I would say, Tuesday night. Don't even look for anything until like Tuesday at 10 because I want you to concentrate on this sort of stuff. All right. So the first is a paper that you're going to be reading, and it's called Counterintuitive Concepts and Beliefs. This is a really short essay that I wrote based on the work of Scott Outram. And basically it describes this. So as you move through it, I want to give you some pointers on what to actually look for. Counterintuitive Concepts and Beliefs talks about the way in which we structure myths, right, and why we create myths the way that we do about the world. And by the way, when you read myths, there are some of the most interesting things that there are out there. In fact, all of the movies that you are watching, they're really good movies, the ones that you watch consistently have a mythological narrative, such as Star Wars or Harry Potter, or any of these stories generate a mythological sort of context, and there's an actual structure to those things. And the structure is that they're chock full of counterintuitive concepts, a regular beat of them, in precise number. And what counterintuitive concepts really are this. They're things that sort of make sense to you. I mean, yeah, I can see that happening, sort of, but it takes something else for it to happen. Such as this. If I see the forest behind me, so if I saw one of those trees, leaning over, and it was resting on a rock, right? Now, I can imagine that if you pull that rock away, that tree is going to fall on its side, right? Well, you see, I know that because I've seen that happen elsewhere in my life. I've seen the weight of something laying on something, and when I pulled it, something has fallen. So when I see a rock underneath that tree, you're holding it up, by analogy, I already know what's going to happen, right? So it's intuitive for me that will happen that way. It's not counterintuitive. Now, something completely counterintuitive to that would be like if someone came in and told you, by the way, the moon just turned into a giant ice cream cone. I don't think that you're going to go out to look at the moon to see if it turned into a giant ice cream cone. You're either going to think the person is a liar or you're going to think they've got some sort of mental defect, right? You see, it's too counterintuitive for you to go out and think it's possible. It will never be possible for you. Even if you saw it yourself, you would actually doubt your own sanity at that point. We all have to think about what it means to be in between those positions, and that's exactly what a myth is. And a religion is this. It is a palimpsest, a group of myths streamed together in a logical way to create a mythology which creates a religion. So we're breaking this down to the individual components, which are the myths, and the smallest parts of those myths are what we call the counterintuitive concepts. So how about a good counterintuitive concept that I think that works very well? I like the one that I put in the paper you're going to read, and this is by Moses. How about Moses? Remember Moses in the Old Testament? So, Moses goes out. This is the end of the Sinai Peninsula where the Red Sea is, and, he's leading this children of Israel from bondage, in the book of Exodus from the Egyptians, right? And he goes up, and here is the Red Sea, and he puts his staff out here, and then he holds his hands out, and he goes, woo, like this, and then the water spreads apart, and they just walk through, right? Well, here's what really made that whole thing believable. Well, if you put your hands in water and do this real fast, you're going to see a well, of opening, right? So when Moses does this, you kind of get the water moving. There's an analogy in the real world. But that can't happen unless you have some object, right? Some magically charged object that assists the hands from doing it. Therefore, he's holding that staff, the one that God gave him the power through his magical power. Off it goes. And then it becomes what we call minimally counterintuitive, right? It's an extrapolation, an extraordinary extrapolation from the real world, but it's believable because it's charged with something magical. All right, that's what a counterintuitive concept really is, and all myths and all have them. Think about Harry Potter. I mean, Harry Potter took his wand in every series, and he just didn't, put the wand in his back pocket. I got the wand. Who cares? And just say, some curse, right? Abracadabra curse or whatever he does, and all of a sudden something happens. Oh no, he has to have the wand in his hand, and he has to thrust it with force, right? So when we think about counterintuitive concepts, they're embodied, they require real world action where people see by analogy, and they require a powerful agent for them to happen. That's a psychological requirement of actually being human. Now, the paper that you're going to be reading gives a couple of examples of these things. And it also mentions that, generally myths, small myths, usually have about 3 counterintuitive events per section of a story. So if you watch Harry Potter, you're going to see about 3 magical things happen per time, or it just becomes overblown and too weird, right? It's like an action movie that has too much action. It just becomes, undoable. It has to be intermittent in the right way. Well, we're going to be looking for those patterns in the stories in which we're going to be reading, the number of counterintuitive events that happen and how they're structured. Now, lastly, one of the reasons humans have these counterintuitive events or these structures that we require in life is that we learn best this way. The one thing it is about to be human is that the one thing that we don't like is reality. Reality sucks. And that's why we're trying to constantly escape it by producing our stories. But we need to do it in a real way that's tied to reality where it seems completely and totally unbelievable. And additionally, when we try to escape reality is also when we learn best. We learn best under the context of mystery. And when there's slight imagination that's dealt with in the real world. If we can bring it to that level of excitement where it puts mystery into it, not only do we think about things best, right? They absorb into our conscious so that we can examine tales and learn messages. They also transmit best between people and between civilizations and cultures. So we'll be learning a little bit about why myths are structured, why they're important. They're important because they transmit well. They transmit values well because they tap into what we need most, the idea of encountering mystery. All right. So once you complete that reading, go on and do the first 2 chapters in our textbook, which is by Stein and Stein, and read chapters 1 and 2. Last thing I want to mention. Anything that says reference, read, or reference on it, that's just for you to reference in case you have additional questions. That's not for you to read. Those are like, okay, additional information is here if you're not clear about the concept. If you do all those reference readings, I guarantee you that you'll be overloaded in the course and you'll go beyond your time commitment that you want to put in. All right. So get started on this first assignment. Okay. What's in this container, and then I'll post the rest for you guys on Tuesday.